I understand you're deciding to sell, and it might not even be the right time for you to sell right now. I've told my sellers, I say, it's probably not a good time for you to sell. Then again, it might be. See, what that did was it just diffused. See, it's like a pressure cooker. You ever had a pressure cooker and it's got that little thing on the top that lets the steam out, Just imagine if you close that little valve and the water's boiling, the water's boiling, the water's boiling. That's like your seller. And then you just come in and you just pop the little thing and you just diffuse. They think you're there to convince them to sell so you can get a big fat commission. But when you walk in confident, you're like, look, it may not even be the right time for you to sell. It's fine with me. If you decide not to sell, I'm good. Okay. But I just want to walk you, boom, they just got diffused. It's just like you let the steam out. Welcome to the Success with Listings podcast, where we help you get success in the real estate game the easy way. Now you can get off the roller coaster of feast and famine and out of the rat race of competing with every other agent in town. Hi, I'm Knolly Williams. I took over 1,000 listings during my first 10 years in the real estate game, and in this podcast, I show you how to have success with listings. Let's go. All right, here we go. Monday Mastery. Who's ready to master it today? What's up? Jim's ready. I see Jim's ready. Michelle's ready. Daniel's ready. Paul's ready. I'm ready. So with this week, we are still continuing our series. By the way, I'm in a new location. All right, I'm in Austin, Texas now. We did, I got to give you guys the update. So we did close on our house in Puerto Rico. Aww. And so that was a 3-year chapter that we completed. So excited for what God did there. We got our money. We came back to Austin, and we got here Wednesday we got here. Thursday we got here, Thursday. And we put a contract on a house on Friday that we're buying here. And it was the same exact house that we lost out on this past January. Or February is when we were supposed to close on it. Anyway, on a contingency. So God is good. The house it actually went through, had several offers, but it's kind of a long story, but God saved it for us and we're so happy. So we put that contract on Friday, or offer was accepted. And we just sent everything to title this morning. They just got it and to open title, and we should be closing. Hopefully we'll close next week. That's our goal. So we are back stateside. With that, you're going to see a lot more live events from Uncle Knolly. Yeah, I don't have to cross the water to do them, and a lot more just involvement. Sometimes it's hard to get anything done on an island, but we did have a great time, and we're still going to travel. So thank you all for your prayers and your support during that whole transition. We're back in Texas and in Austin today, and we're continuing our series, which is the tools of the listing trade. What you're learning now. This is part 4. What you're learning. By the way, if you didn't go to the other parts, make sure you go back. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you go back and listen to the other parts. But what we're learning is that there are certain tools of the trade that if you have those tools in your business, it will make your life easier and you'll be able to win more listings before you ever meet with your sellers. Okay, that's the time to really win it, because and a lot of agents don't realize this, Paul. They don't realize that the phone call that they never received, the reach out that they never got, the DM that they never got, was simply a result of someone might have been thinking about hiring you. Okay, like, maybe I should hire that person. And then what do? They look you up. They they look at your credentials. Maybe they don't know you have a book. Okay. And they get sidetracked. They go on to do something else. They go to church. Somebody introduces them to another agent, right? And then maybe they don't reach out to you. Okay. And maybe you're not reaching out to them. Okay. You're not on top of SOI like you should. Okay. And so you just never even know. And then you find out, hopefully it's not happened to you, but you find out 8 months or a year later that they bought a house with someone else, or they sold their house through someone else. Okay. And when you have a structure in place, when you have tools in place, this doesn't happen to you, because everyone knows that they're going to list with you. It's period. You're that gal, you're that guy, right? Psychologically, you've already trained them, and that's what it really is all about. Some people call it indoctrination. I don't really like that term, but that's essentially what we're doing. Okay. We're planting seeds into their subconscious mind. Remember when I told you guys and I taught you that 95% of the things that happen in your life originate from the subconscious? That's science. That's scientifically proven. Well, what we're doing is we're embedding into the psyche of every single person that you know, and even those that you don't know, that you're the only person they should think about when they think about real estate. Okay, that's all we're doing with this. And so it just makes your life so much easier when you are the go-to gal or the go-to guy. And you get so much more opportunity. Just imagine if you went, if I believe that just having these systems in place can double or easily triple your production, just having the systems in place. Because what you're doing is you're not just having systems in place, you're embedding within the subconscious psyche of individuals what they should be doing and why. Okay. So we're going to get more into that today. We're going to get more into the psychology. And then we're actually going to create, or we're going to look at how the cover is created. Okay. The cover of the book. After this, we might take a break and do an AKA day. You think that'd be fun, Paul? Just doing like an AKA? Yeah, let's do that. We'll take a break from the series. We'll do an AKA, which just ask Knolly anything. We'll do a full, next week we'll do that. And then we'll get into, after that, we're going to get into the pre-listing package. And I'm going to go through every single document in the pre-listing package, why you should use it, how to structure it, how to create it, and how to the scripts that go around it as well, because there's scripts. Every single one of these tools that you use have scripts that go with them. Okay. So I'm going to get into all the scripts that go around them as well. Okay. And then you're going to get an editable version of every document. Okay. So this is going to be just a lot of fun that we have for the next however many weeks it takes to go through everything. So with that, let me share my screen, and I'm going to let them see my whole desktop, Paul. So you guys this is family. So everybody that's on this call gets to see everything that I'm doing, all my behind the scenes, everything. Okay. So again, we're talking about the tools of the listing trade. We announced last time the different top producers, right? So we don't have to do that again. But remember, there's a calendar that's in school, that's in our classroom. We have a leaderboard, all right? And then if you're brand new, if you haven't been here before, we have a start here section. I'll show you that in a minute. We looked at this last week. These are all of our people that are making $250,000 or more a year. And I show you this because sometimes you're at a point where you're like, hey, I need advice from somebody. Well, guess what? You can reach out to, and we got a new list coming out. I think it's coming out, well, like a month, right, Paul? Yeah, in about a month. And then my promise is that you're going to leave every weekly session with a new strategy, idea, or mind shift that will elevate your business so that you can spend more time doing what you love while making more money. Okay, that's what it's about. Do what God put you on earth to do, and make a good income while you're doing it. Why not? I mean, I don't know about you, but I figured out it costs a lot of money to live in the United States of America. You know, it costs more than you think sometimes. You know, it's it's expensive to live here. All right, let me go to our group. And I actually, some of you might have noticed, I changed it to Knolly Realty Coaching. And the reason I did that is because I actually have a life coaching group Okay, I don't want to distract you, but anybody that's in my Knolly Realty coaching, you get access to life coaching anyway. It's already embedded into Knolly Coaching Club, but I'm doing a separate group just for people that want to excel at life, not necessarily even real estate. So this is the Knolly Coaching Club main page. This is the community. Anytime you have a question about anything, you can type it here and then just make sure that you select the category of AKA, Ask Knolly Anything. And then you just title it, put your question in, and I promise I will answer it. Most of the time I answer within 24 hours. Yeah, let me quick. This is the classroom here. Those of you that are brand new, coming in for the first time, you're gonna start here. That's gonna walk you through everything. Click on that, and it's gonna be a sort of a introduction into KCC. Yeah, and I know my camera's still acting wonky. I am gonna try everything that Paul suggested that I try to fix this before I buy a new computer, because it's not the camera. I've already tried 3 cameras and none of them work. It's the computer. So remember the calendar's here, so you can, anytime you want to know when the classes are, they're here. And I encourage you to add them to your calendar. Okay, do that, because that way you'll never miss a single episode. If you want to look up a member, you can look on the members area. And then there's a map to show you guys where you are. Okay. So all the members, if you want to look up somebody or you've got a referral, go to the members map first, okay, before you send that out to someone. This is our leaderboard, and the leaderboard shows our top people. And Carol's still crushing it. I mean, she is so active in the community that she is just killing it, right? So Carol Smith is our #1. We got Daniel De Jesus, #2 on our leaderboard this week. And then Pam Washburn is #3. And all you got to do to get on the leaderboard is just be active in the community. Make, comment, like posts, comment on posts, ask questions, just be active in the community, and you gain points by doing that. And Paul and I are giving away prizes. In fact, I was looking at a really cool prize yesterday that that I'm going to be ordering as one of our prizes. So we'll be announcing that as we get along. All right. So with that, now, if you have a question as I'm going through this, make sure that you throw your question in the chat, and then we're going to have a good amount of time, I think, for Q&A, at least 20 minutes today. And then next week's going to be off a Q&A day. It's going to be AKA day. So let's go back into the psychology. And last week, what I did was I broke down every single chapter of the book, Consider It Sold. And I gave you some scripts to use for every single chapter. And those scripts should save you at least, write this down, at least your savings should be a minimum of 10 hours on every listing. Okay. They should save you, and I've done the math on it. I already know those scripts and that book will help you save 10 hours on the life of every listing. So you don't have to repeat yourself, go back over information over and over again. Now, what is it doing psychologically? Okay. It's very important for you to understand whenever you're selling, okay, you're selling. What is sales? Anybody remember what sales is? Okay, my definition of sales. Okay, so write it down. If you don't remember, sales is finding out what people need and making it easy for them to get it. Okay, that's what sales is. If you had a different idea of what sales was, I don't know what book you read, but that's all sales is. Someone is not going to buy something they don't want or need. Now, they could, but what's going to happen later? What are they going to think of you? Okay. When I do my transactions, I do them in such a way where as I'm closing the transaction, I'm confident that that person's kids and grandkids are going to want to do business with me. Because when they look at that file, 10, 15, 20, remember Bradford, when we were doing short sales at pre-foreclosures, and we knew we were treating people right because we knew that in at some point that file might be audited, right? They're going to go back and say, okay, what happened here? This guy was almost in foreclosure. Bradford worked on the deal. Was everything done above board? You know, those files can get audited. And we want to make sure that when they look at it, they're like, wow, man, Bradford actually treated me better than he could have. Like he really had an opportunity to take advantage of me, but he didn't. He did the right thing with me. And I'm gonna trust him for life, right? We're building trust for life. So we find out what it is that people need. We make it easy for them to get it. But a lot of times people get stuck and they don't want to make the right decision. What's the right decision? The right decision is you should hire Jim. Okay. The right decision is to hire Daniel. That's the right decision, but they just get stuck. And so here's from the psychology behind it, how this helps them. Okay. So on the chapter deciding to sell, the psychology is this chapter speaks to the emotional and practical reasons someone might decide to sell. It validates their feelings and affirms their decision, reducing seller anxiety. Okay, very, very important. How many of you know the number one tool that people use when they make a purchase or when they make a sale? Right here, feelings. Okay, that's what we use. We are electronic. We're electrical beings. We have a central nervous system, and we operate on feelings. That's the way God created us. Okay. Now, many of us have learned to control our feelings. Okay, that's part of being civilized, but nonetheless, the feelings are there, and so we don't try to pretend that they're not there. We work with them in the psychology of where they're at. So the positioning, how does it position you? Well, this chapter basically, by empathizing with the decision-making process, you position yourself as someone who understands both the emotional and financial sides of selling. So what that chapter does is says, look, I understand you're deciding to sell, and it might not even be the right time for you to sell right now. You know, I've told my sellers, I say, you know, it's probably not a good time for you to sell. Then again, it might be. See, what that did was it just diffused. See, it's like a pressure cooker. You ever had a pressure cooker and it's got that little thing on the top that lets the steam out, you know? Just imagine if you close that little valve and the water's boiling, the water's boiling, the water's boiling. That's like your seller. And then you just come in and you just pop the little thing and you just diffuse. You know, they think you're there to convince them to sell so you can get a big fat commission. But when you walk in confident, you're like, look, it may not even be the right time for you to sell. It's fine with me. If you decide not to sell, I'm good. Okay. But I just want to walk you, boom, they just got diffused. It's just like you let the steam out. Okay. So that's deciding to sell. Now they're like, hey, I want to sell. It's not your decision, it's their decision now. See, people will never buy from you until it becomes their decision. Did you know that? You know, I learned that with sales, with recruiting. It can't be my decision for you. It's got to be your decision that you came up with psychologically. And I'm like, man, Daniel, that's a good decision. I like the decision you came up with. Okay. Now I'm supporting you in your decision. See what I'm saying? I'm not really instigating. Okay. Even though the book does kind of, so it's a guide. Okay. That's the best way to think about it. It's a guide, just like you are. So now marketing your home for sale. The psychology behind this chapter is sellers want assurance that their home will be marketed aggressively and professionally. Now, what's the positioning for you? This chapter gives a sneak peek into your marketing system and builds trust. You're showing sellers you have a proven plan, not just throwing it on the MLS and praying. We talked about that last week, okay? You have a proven plan. Now they're not even worried about what's about to happen to their property. Now, what sellers are doing when they give you their property is they're trusting you with their most valuable asset. Just imagine a jeweler, okay, that has a diamond, like a certain kind of diamond that's only the rarest one you could find, and it's their most prized possession. And then you come in asking to see it, and they're like, you can see it through the glass. But you're like, but could you unlock it for me and let me see it up close? Can I hold it? Well, I don't know if I'll let you hold it. I tell you what, let me hold it and let me take it with me. Is that okay? How many jewelers are going to let you do that with their most price? It's not going to happen. Now, what you're asking a seller to do is you're asking them to, for their life savings. Their life savings are rolled up into this one asset called a house. And you're asking them to trust you with that. It's a very hard thing for them to do. And that's why it's a loving thing to give them a tool that helps get them over all the psychological frustration and the angst of what you're asking them to do. Okay. Now, number 3 is about price. Okay, this is very important, obviously. So this taps into the seller's fear of underpricing. How many of y'all know that sellers are afraid of underpricing? Okay, or sitting on the market a long time. Those are the 2 fears that they have. I'm going to price it too low, or it's going to sit on the market too long. They'll never say that they're going to overprice it, because in their mind, there's no such thing as an overprice. My house is worth $1 million. Yeah. To you, it is. All right, might have to keep it. Right. So it educates them so that they feel empowered. Now, the positioning of this chapter is you establish yourself as a market expert, someone who uses real data, okay, and strategy to price homes right from the start. So the pricing is the most important piece. And the reason why we don't start off with price is because that's too obvious. Most sellers don't think that the price is the only thing that matters. And so instead of fighting them on their beliefs, it's just like, hey, let's play along. Okay, you think it needs all this marketing? Great. We're going to do a lot of marketing. You think that it needs to be staged? That's fine. We'll stage it. You think it needs great photos, which I agree. It does need great photos. We're going to do a professional photography session. We're gonna do all these things that you think you need. You think it needs, all this stuff. That's fine. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna price it the correct way. Okay, it's a tit for tat. I'm gonna give you what you want. What I want is the right price. You want all this other stuff? I'll do that for you, but in exchange, you need to price it according to what the market says. Okay. And by the way, I got rid of this language. It used to be years ago, I would tell a seller, here's what I think the price is. I got rid of that so many years ago. It's ridiculous. Okay. I don't have an opinion of the price. They say, what do you think the price is? I have no opinion on price. If Jim was to ask me today what I think his house is worth, and I look at all the data, I say, Jim, I have zero opinion on what your house is worth. I have no, I just don't even have an opinion on it. But I can tell you what the market's saying. Okay, let's look at what the market's saying about it. Okay, well, what do you think? I don't have any thoughts. I have no thoughts on it. But the market is, here's what the market's thinking. Let me show you the last 4 sales, and here's what they got. Okay, so the market is saying that it's always, that's the language you want to use. You guys understand what I'm saying? This is gold I'm putting down for you. Because when you start telling a seller what you think, I think this, and I think that's cool for the ego, but it's not a good positioning for you. It's like, look, here's what the market is saying. Oh, but what do you think? Well, let me show you what I think. I think that the market says this. And because the reality is, what is price? See, price is subjective. It's not even a science. Okay. What is market price? It's what a buyer is willing to pay. That's all it is. Okay. So what a buyer is willing to pay is that's the value. That's the property value. That's it. Well, what if they're willing to pay $1 million? Then that's the value. It's what a buyer's willing to pay, period. Okay. So I kind of remove myself from the process of that, because I don't want to get caught up in their emotional baggage, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So that's a very important distinction for you. Now, number 4 is getting your home ready for sale. Yes, I want it to look good. Okay. And so the psychology, this addresses the seller's desire to make a great impression and their anxiety about what needs to be done. Like, exactly what do I have to do? Okay, there's checklists and things like that. So how does this position you? You're the calm in the chaos. Right now, they're going through a lot of chaos, and you're the calm in that. You provide clarity and direction on how to prepare the home efficiently and effectively without overspending. And I have conversations with my sellers, and I say, look, Jim, let me be honest with you. I know you don't want to spend another dime on this house. You're not going to be living here anymore. And I get it. So what we're going to do some low to no cost things to get your home sold. Okay. Low to no cost. And I always tell them that the top three is to clean, declutter, and paint. Those are the top three things. They don't cost a lot of money. You get your house clean. You don't want to hire somebody, clean it yourself. Okay, get it clean. I want it clean. I want it decluttered. Okay, half the stuff you have in this house, you can live without it. I learned that in Puerto Rico when all of my stuff was on the back of a moving truck, and my buyer, 3 days after we were supposed to go sign the papers, and all we were waiting for was the time and date when we're going to go sign to sell the house. I'm on the back of a moving truck. I jump off the moving truck, check my emails, and I close the truck because we just packed all our stuff in there. And I get a message that he's not going to buy my house. Okay. So, but then I lived in that house for months without all that stuff. All my stuff's in storage. And I was like, we can live in a house. My neighbors brought pots and pans. This neighbor brought over a couple of glasses. That neighbor brought in some plates. Josie organized all this stuff. People brought over stuff, but we lived in the house with like 90% less stuff than we had, and we lived fine. So it's like, hey, let's declutter, clean the house. Let's declutter, get rid of half this stuff, put it in storage, put it out, get it out of here. And let's put a little bit of paint on there. Let's paint these walls. Let's do this. Let's touch, at least touch ups. Okay. Let's get it looking good. And so, so that's what, now there could be a lot of other things that you have your sellers do, but I tell them at least those three if they're on a tight budget. Now, choosing the right agent. Now, this is a very subtle chapter, okay? So psychology, this helps sellers see that not all agents are created equal, because they do believe that we're a commodity. Most sellers believe that agents are like a can of corn. Am I going to get Del Monte or am I going to get this brand? That's all they think. Is it going to be Jim or Bradford? That's it. Okay, which one? Who do I like more? But when they go through this guide, they're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. There's a big difference between agents. Like, it empowers them to choose wisely, okay? And I give, even when someone says that they're going to go with another agent, I say, hey, no problem. You've already got an agent you love. Oh, your cousin? No problem. Here's a copy of my book. It's going to help you. And if you ever get into a jam, just give me a call. But make sure you read this chapter and that chapter. Read that tonight. In fact, I want you to read chapter 5. If you don't do anything else, you want to make more money, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, with your cousin, just go ahead and read chapter 5. If you have any questions, call me, and have a great sale with your cousin. And I walk, and then guess what happens? My cousin says they're not going to do all. Okay, well, hey, you get to choose who you hire, right? So obviously, this chapter is a subtle but powerful credibility builder. Without bragging, you showcase what to look for in an agent, traits you just so happen to embody. Right? All right, so that's choosing the right agent. 6, handling showings. The psychology behind this is that showings can feel invasive or frustrating. Now, this chapter sets expectations and minimizes surprises, right? Here's how it positions you. You become their trusted guide, helping them maintain control and reduce stress during this potentially disruptive part of the process. Strangers coming into my house, I don't know what to expect, etc. So that's empathetic to kind of, you beat them to the punch and you're showing them, here's how we're going to work with that. Now, working with offers. The psychology, working with offers. This chapter deals with hope, fear, and negotiation. Now, think about this for a minute. They have hope and fear. Whenever you see that in the same sentence, that is an emotional cocktail. Like, anybody ever had one of them, what do they call them? Like espresso cosmopolitan, espresso. Have y'all seen those? Espresso martini. Yeah. Okay, you can tell I don't drink them. But have y'all seen those? It's got caffeine and alcohol. Okay, anybody seen those before? Yeah. So some of y'all don't want to raise your hand, like I've never seen it. I've had one. They're pretty good actually. But you got two different things going. You got uppers and downers going, and they got hope and fear combined. Like, oh, they're it that's an interesting recipe of feelings, okay? It prepares the seller for different scenarios. Now the positioning, now and I will say this, a lot of times when the seller um, is in the negotiating process, they feel like it's adversarial. Okay, they feel it's they're kind of on the defense about it. But the reality is the seller wants to sell and the buyer wants to buy. So you and I know that they actually are on the same team, but they don't know that. Okay. So we've got to rearrange their psychology. We've got to rearrange their thinking on how they look at the buyer. The buyer is actually a partner in your goal. Your goal is to go to Washington. So because you want to be closer to family, your grandkids, right? Yeah, you want to go to Washington. All right. Right now you're here, you're in South Carolina, and the buyer is a team member, part of our team that's helping you do that. Okay. So they have to understand that. And a lot of times the seller just doesn't. So that's our job, is to help them understand it. All right. Hold on one second, guys. I need to plug in. See if I can get. If you have any questions so far on what we talked about, throw them in the chat. We're almost done with this part. Okay. I'm on low battery, so I had to do that. Okay, so positioning, how does this position you? Everything that you do, you want to think about in terms of how does this affect the psyche of the seller and how does it position me? So positioning, you're the savvy negotiator, someone who protects their bottom line while keeping the deal together. You'll find a lot of times the sellers try to over negotiate when they don't trust you. They don't believe. But when they start to believe in you, they start to know, they're like, man, Jim, look, whatever you say, I'm good. I trust you. When they start talking like that, that's when you know you've got. And I even push back. I say, hey, Jim, I get it. You trust me. It's whatever I say, but I want you to be an active participant in this. I want you to be, because sometimes I gotta go push it back. Because when you use your tools the right way, you sell yourself to such a degree that they completely trust you. You've had that happen, right, Bradford? Where the seller just says, look, Bradford, man, whatever you say, we'll do it. I know Daniel's had it happen. And this is the place where you want them to be, right? But then sometimes it can become too much where you push it a little bit back on them. So now finally, closing the sale, the psychology, the finish line. Okay. So, but sellers may still have concerns and confusion. This chapter brings it all home, pun intended. All right. Brings it all home for them. Right. And then they want to know, okay, what do they bring to closing? How does that process work? Da, da, da. It's been 6 years since I closed the house. I don't remember, that kind of stuff. Um, Positioning, you wrap it up with professionalism and care. You reassure them that you've got this handled all the way to the end. A lot of times I'll have to tell my seller when they're overthinking, I have to say, Paul, let me just ask you a quick question. And, how many homes have you sold again? They say, well, I've already, because they start acting cocky like they know what they're doing. Well, I've already, I've sold 5 homes. I say, look, Paul, I get it. You're you're on the high end of most of my sellers in terms of your savvy. You're super savvy. I've sold over 1,000, Paul. Now, here's what I've seen in my experience. Boom, and I just shift it down and then they start seeing things from a different lens. Okay, or if you sold 50 or you sold 20, if you don't have that experience, then you leverage your upline. Okay, hey, our team has sold over 1,000. Our team sold over 100. Whatever it is, you leverage your upline. Finally, the conclusion is all about you becoming the go-to listing expert. Okay, that's what this is all about. It's essentially, there's a psychological purpose in helping sellers feel comfortable, understood, and confident in their decision to work with you. Okay. And it methodically, this is a method, this is a strategy, okay? It methodically addresses their concerns, educating them and offering strategic guidance, okay? And you become the trusted authority in their eyes. By breaking down the steps of the selling process in this way, remember, these are bite-sized chunks. You're positioning yourself not just as an agent, but as an expert who truly understands, and not only understands, but cares, okay, about every aspect of the listing and selling journey. This trust is what leads to future business, referrals, and consistent success. A lot of times, I can't stress this enough, and this is the reason why Paul and I put this series together. A lot of times people think that these tools are just cute little things to have, and it's not that. Okay, it's like needing a screwdriver and you don't have one. You're trying to use your fingernail, or let me get a spoon, or let me get, no. This is the right tool for the job. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Success with Listings podcast. If you are serious about taking your real estate career to the highest heights, making more money and helping more clients while working less hours and spending more time with your family, be sure to get your copy of my free book, Triple My Listing, absolutely free at successwithlistings.com. Now, you want to be sure that you subscribe to the podcast and check out successwithlistings.com to get your copy of my free book. Hey, I'll see you on the next one.